This is John's House, a daily place for real conversation about Frederick. From the decisions that affect your neighborhood to the events, nonprofits, restaurants, and local leaders that make this community move. Local, regional, national, and always connected to home. Come on in. John's House starts now.
Happy freaking Friday. It is Friday. Happy to have you on with me in Studio 401. Dougie is half behind the counter today because he's half teaching me how to produce my own show at the same time while I'm doing my show. So this is going to be an interesting show. If anything happens wrong, blame me. Don't blame Dougie. All right. It's my fault. It's going to be on me. But let's hope that nothing goes wrong because he's teaching me very well the way to do it. Bella showed me a few things yesterday. Dougie today. Between the two of them, I'm sure I'm going to have things covered. And if not, again, it's on me. All right, I'm John Hunt, and you are watching the Friday edition of John's House. And in the house today, we're going to talk gas prices. We're going to talk some new grand openings. Those are coming in the second half of the show. And before we get into it, first off, I want to thank and congratulate, I should say, the host of Good Morning Frederick, Danny Gurry, whose son is getting married today. So congratulations to them. And she just had her 600th edition of Good Morning Frederick. I'm a long way behind them. I'm at episode 55 now today of this show, and then episode 55 later this afternoon of Frederick Sports. So again, congratulations, 600 episodes. Congratulations on the big sunny wedding day. You got a great day for it. Temperature's not even getting to 80 today. Sunshine, no rain. The rain's not going to start till tomorrow. So it looks like the gods of weddings are looking down on you guys, and congratulations for that. Again, we are part of the Everything Frederick Live Network, which includes over 15 podcasts. I have two of those. Again, this one, John's House, and Frederick Sports, which covers everything from the Frederick Keys to the Little Leagues and pretty much everything in between. That comes your way at 4 o'clock every Monday through Friday. And again, you saw the previews before the show showing some of the other great podcasts that we have here in Studio 401 on the Everything Frederick Live Network. So we're gonna talk a serious subject. It's a little bit of, well, it is a worldwide and national subject, but it did affect people in Frederick. Remember, in 2020, a lot of people had to shut their businesses down. A lot of people, who were in the process of moving, they couldn't find housing and had to stay in hotels because of the fact that nobody would show housing. That's what happened to me when I first moved here. I had gotten here, and then 2 weeks later, the governor shut down the state pretty much. And so, places where you'd go to look for homes wouldn't show you an apartment and things like that because of COVID. And so I ended up, and it was a nice place. Don't get me wrong. It was, I ended up in extended stay for like 3 months while that transition was going on until I was able to find a place. But it was a crazy time. I mean, I literally had left the West Coast. I had been wearing a mask for a year because I was post-heart transplant, and you have to wear a mask for a while when you're in public. And then I got to take the mask off for a couple of weeks after having clear biopsies, and everything was good. And then they're like, oh, it's COVID time. So everybody had to put their masks on, and, remember Hogan, wear the damn mask, and, all of that. I'm not knocking Larry Hogan. He went with what he had at the time. But yeah, a lot of businesses in this state were shut down. That would be the only negative I would say about our former governor. He handled a lot of other things very well. But what I'm getting into today is the part that mainstream media doesn't really want to cover. I mean, there are some stories. They're in the back of the news. They're hiding in newspapers on page 16, where these should be headlines when it comes to Dr. Anthony Fauci and his staff. at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases at the very beginning and all the way through the process of COVID when it hit us. So Dr. David Morens, this is a story that just came out day before yesterday. We were unable to get to it yesterday because of other things that we had lined up. But the former senior advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci pled guilty in federal court on a charge of conspiracy to defraud the United States. Okay, this is Fauci's number one assistant. Morens worked directly for Fauci at the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. And again, he concealed federal records, including emails written to him by Dr. Anthony Fauci. So this guy has stepped up. Fauci's right-hand guy has stepped up and said, I was guilty. Now, this guy doesn't have federal pardons from former President Biden. He did this because he thought it was the right thing to do. Yes, he was being pressed by Congress and everybody else involved in the case to tell the truth. But what I'm hoping is that he doesn't become the fall guy for the multimillionaire now, Anthony Fauci, and anybody else who was involved in the COVID cover-ups and all the things. You know, I was working in media at the time. I was working for a national news network, making news reports and shipping them to 300 stations around the United States, 300 radio stations around the United States. It was called the iNews Radio Network. And we got, you know, a lot of times I'd get smacked on the wrist and warned and things like that if I posted anything on social media about these stories. You know, I was a heart transplant recipient and I was forced, and I was going to Johns Hopkins for my follow-up because my shots didn't start until after my 1-year mark. I had left the University of Washington and moved from the West Coast back home to the East Coast and ended up, again, going to the place where they told us all, and still the place I'm covered by, Johns Hopkins University, one of the best universities for doctors in the United States. They train some of the best doctors in the world to go to other places and do their jobs. But here's the reality. After the shots, it was found out that they weren't putting any antibodies in my system. I'm immunocompromised. Okay? It should have been doing just that. So the first shot, nothing. I didn't feel anything. Nothing happened. Nothing. It was as if every day was normal. Second shot, again, I got a little bit of a stomach bug for half a day after the second shot. That might have even been because I didn't eat right that day. And then I said, I need to be tested. This isn't right. How am I, I'm immunocompromised from a heart transplant. How am I not getting COVID? And by the way, during that time, everybody in my household got COVID except me. Everybody had it. It was in my house. It's crazy. And I worked in the morning doing news and I was bored the rest of the day. So Governor Hogan said that drivers of Uber and Lyft and stuff were emergency workers. They considered us to be allowed to work, to get people to the hospital and the doctors. So on top of having a house full of COVID people at Christmas time, I also drove people in my car, to make extra money because I was done working by 12 noon every day, other than paperwork and things like that and prep. But, I had a ton of time because I worked, my news reports started at 5 and they ended at 10. And I would do production, ship newscasts out, send stories of mine to the other newscasters so they can use them on their shows. And I'm past shot 2. And I said, can we find out if this is even making a difference? And the doctors are like, yeah, you probably should have gotten some kind of little sickness more than a stomach bug between the first and second shot. So they tested me and they said, John, you don't have any antibodies from the first or the second shot. None. 0. It's supposed to give you antibodies to fight the virus, right? Isn't that the way the COVID virus is supposed to work? So I said, okay, then I don't want to take any more shots. And they're like, well, if you want to stay in the heart program, which I needed to stay in, of course, to continue to get follow-up after a heart transplant, you need to take the third shot. So against my better judgment, I took the third shot. After the third shot, I had an appointment already scheduled. I went to the hospital, to the doctors, and I said, I'm not feeling great today. And they're like, okay, go to the emergency room. I was feeling a little chest pressure. I wasn't right. And it was unusual because I had gone through 18 biopsies with no rejection, no issues whatsoever. So I go to the emergency room at Hopkins and they check me in and they say, oh, by the way, you have COVID. And after my 4 days in the hospital, I felt okay, but they told me I had COVID. And after 4 days in the hospital, they said, oh, by the way, you don't have to take the shot anymore. The shot gave you the COVID. The shot gave me COVID. It wasn't. They admitted that to be true. And they told me that from now on, if I ever have any symptoms of COVID, that I can do the monoclonal antibodies where you basically get on an IV for 3 hours and they put it in, they fight it in your system that way through an IV. So against my better judgment, I took the third shot and ended up in the hospital for 4 days. And then afterwards, they said, and by the way, you have little nodules after, because every once in a while I have to get chest x-ray. And at the 6 month and 1 year marks afterwards, they said, oh, by the way, you have little nodules in your chest and on your ribs that came from post-COVID. So the shot gave me COVID. And I'm not the only one in the world, but nobody could say it. Nobody could admit that to be the truth because nobody wanted to hear that, especially one side of the aisle. Now, this should not be a political issue. This is a health issue. This is a nationwide issue. This is a worldwide issue. So now the former senior advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci pled guilty in federal court on a charge of conspiracy to defraud the United States. Right after all this proof, after Dr. Anthony Fauci writes a diary, like a little 14-year-old girl does about going to school and seeing her friends and thinking the little boy down the street is cute. And he wrote things like, the nurses love me. That's the stuff he's writing in his diary. They think I'm more important than Jay-Z. Those are the things that he's writing in his diary that is supposed to be about what happened during COVID. Now, if everything had gone smooth and he was a superhero and we wouldn't have these after effects and issues and he hadn't made all that money, I guarantee you he would have written a book. And maybe he did, but obviously a lot of that is lies. He would have written a book about, using that diary that he wrote for the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and it got released. And again, he admitted that he got COVID as well and never told anyone. When the president got COVID, he said he got a mild case of COVID and was, put on lockdown for a little while. Anthony Fauci never admitted to having COVID. Now, if he would have admitted that he did, okay, that's fine. But he hid the fact even that he got COVID. Come on, really? The president admitted, both presidents admitted that they had COVID at one time. Both presidents, Trump and Biden, both got COVID. They had mild cases. They stayed in quarantine for the amount of time they needed to, and they worked from quarantine and all that stuff. Okay? Anthony Fauci denied that he ever got COVID in Congress, to Congress. And then the diary said that he ended up in COVID, in COVID protocol because he got it. These are some of the things that the leader of the group that's handling the whole COVID situation shouldn't have done. He should have been honest with the American people and should be now. What is he afraid of? And is Dr. David Morens going to be a scapegoat? Are they going to just blame him now for everything? And Fauci will get off scot-free? Because, again, he's already pardoned. And they're still trying to figure out if it's constitutionally okay to pardon somebody for future. It's one thing for past crimes, And usually you have to have already been charged with a crime or found guilty of a crime. Dr. Anthony Fauci had not, when he was given the pardons, been charged or found guilty of any crimes. So if he did nothing wrong, you hear these people say this all the time about anything. Well, if you didn't do anything wrong, you should be just fine. It shouldn't matter. That argument even here in town about the flock cameras. Well, if you don't do anything wrong, you shouldn't worry about the cameras. Well, if Dr. Anthony Fauci didn't do anything wrong, right? Isn't that what these same people say on a regular basis? Think about that for a second. I know it's been a little while, and some people just don't want to think about COVID anymore. Well, first off, if we don't figure out what we did wrong, how are we going to fix it if it comes back? If you don't, the flu comes back on a regular basis. And, for the COVID bout that I had in the hospital, it was to me no worse than a case of the flu. I didn't feel sick, but they made me stay there for 4 days because I was a heart transplant patient. And I understand that. I get it. They wanted to be extra careful. But again, for, a year before that, year and a half before that actually happened, I was in a house full of people with COVID and didn't catch it. I drove, Uber around this area, around DC, had as many people as I could get. You could only take one at a time. Uber had its rules and things like that. But again, I didn't catch COVID through any of that. I had no antibodies in my system, according to Johns Hopkins University. And that's my case, so I can talk about it. I know there are some cases you say, oh, well, there's certain rules and you can't talk about this or whatever. This is my case. This is what really happened. And everybody else I saw got COVID. Most of them were mild cases, but I saw some people who got pretty sick. And as a matter of fact, I know a few people who died of COVID. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the things they're not calling COVID anymore actually are COVID. Some of the respiratory diseases, again, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases changed the name to HPV or something. I can't remember what it was, but it's a respiratory virus. And they just changed the name of it's exactly the same as COVID. But so that there would be no fear. They changed the name of it. Really? Why is there so much cover up if no one did anything wrong? If money that NIH and Fauci used and gave to the Wuhan coronavirus clinic in Wuhan, China, where it started, and we know this. Again, I'm not being President Trump and saying, oh, it's the China virus. Okay, it started there. We know that. And why is no one involved being punished? Why is no one involved being punished for this, except this guy who came forward and admitted to his wrongdoing? First person I'm seeing punished in any significant way. This guy's 78 years old. He could face up to 5 years in prison and a fine of $250,000 when he is sentenced in November. That's crazy. I mean, he told the truth. And yes, if you did it wrong, you should get punished. And he's probably going to get out in 6 months on good behavior, whatever. They're going to say he's older as long as he doesn't cause a fight in prison or something crazy like that, or get found guilty of other charges after he's in prison. But again, he covered up records, including emails written to him by Dr. Anthony Fauci. Wow. This isn't AI making this garbage up either. This is real. This is real. Again, they went before congressional hearing, which, by the way, Democrats are skipping. They skipped. They didn't want to be in the room. Why? This isn't political. This is people's health. Millions and millions of people died because of this. They died because of COVID. So whoever is responsible should be forced to tell the truth. Those, all the way to those in mainstream media, And I know we have the right to freedom of speech, but we don't have the right to lie on purpose when we get behind a microphone, do we? I was a member of the media for 40 plus years before switching to baseball because I was so frustrated with the way things were being done, and then coming back here a couple of months ago to join the crew at the Everything Frederick Live Network and do 2 podcasts, 2 shows a day. Now, one, we talk about sports, and then we have this one where we talk about things that affect us, Joe Schmoes, right here in Frederick and all over the state. Okay, this did affect us. This affected our way of life. Businesses shut down because of it. This is real. So take the time, do your homework, write your congressperson, Republican or Democrat, and let them know that you want to know the truth. You want to know what really happened. And we as Americans deserve to know what really happened. It shouldn't take as long as it did for, again, the Kennedy assassination files or Watergate files or some of these other famous cover-ups that we've had in this country. But, it's a matter of national security. Watergate wasn't a national security. The Kennedy assassination, maybe, but they were releasing no information until, 5 years ago or less. So, and then, of course, there's the Epstein files. Everybody who was involved, no matter what party they are, no matter how famous they are as an actor or a musician, yes, they should be punished. Again, not a political issue. This is a crime. These are crimes, people. So stop trying to make it all, you don't like it because Hunter Biden was there. You don't like it because, Donald Trump was there, or Bill Clinton, or Hillary Clinton for that matter. You don't like it because, Clinton got on the plane 27 times. Okay, he did. But why can't we tell the truth about it now? The guy is dead. He killed himself in a maximum security prison. So doesn't that sound kind of funny? But, and then the lady who was his main assistant, Ghislaine Maxwell, is in prison too, in a country club prison. And she won't talk. She won't tell the truth. But there is so much information that people know. Congress knows. They've seen it. Epstein files, heavily redacted. They certainly don't have anything to do with national security. I mean, unless the ladies of the Epstein were sleeping with double agents. You're sleeping with James Bond, and while he was on a case, maybe that's a little bit of national security. But just release the information to the American people. We deserve to know the truth. We deserve to know the truth. It's that simple. I mean, guys like me, broadcasters could sit here and we could speculate and come up with the best ideas that we can based on the information we have. Just give us all the information. Let us tell the truth. Or just you tell the truth. Take it out of our hands. Tell NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, all of them to tell us the story. Associated Press, Reuters, all of them. Allow them to tell us the truth. I'm going to take a short break and we'll come up with some things that maybe are gas prices, not so good, but other good things that are going on around the region. We're going to talk about those in the second half. My name is John Hunt. And I got to push this button, don't I? I got to push one of these buttons down here because I am handling my own show today. So let me get this one ready. And my name is John Hunt, and this is John's House.
Frederick, if you're craving real Chicago-style flavor, Rosati's is bringing it. From their cheesy, loaded deep dish pizza to crispy tavern-style thin crust, every bite is packed with that classic Rosati's taste. And don't sleep on the steak and cheese sub. Hot, hearty, and seriously satisfying. Rosati's has been serving family recipes since 1964, and now you can get it right here in Frederick. Stop by 911 West 7th Street or order online at rosatispizza.com. Rosati's, keeping it real since 1964.
Hot Fired Arts is Frederick's handmade, locally owned art studio where creativity meets community. Since 2016, they've offered hands-on art experiences for all ages, from pottery and fused glass to wet clay and canvas painting. Whether you're looking for a fun family outing, a date night, or a creative outlet, they make art accessible and enjoyable for all skill levels. Stop by and see them today in the Fairview Shopping Center on 7th Street, Frederick, or visit them online at hotfiredarts.com.
Sponsored by Maryland Lottery. Tons of ways to win. Hot scratch-offs like Big Money, where a $5 ticket could net you $50,000, or the $2 Monopoly ticket with a top prize of $10,000. Go to mdlottery.com for all the details. Plus, you can download the app and scan your tickets to see if you're a winner. Must be 18 to play. Please play responsibly.
How much should law enforcement be able to see when you drive down the street? Flock cameras are raising serious questions about public safety, privacy, tracking, and your data. Now, Everything Frederick Live is bringing the conversation face to face. Join Maryland gubernatorial candidate Dan Cox, Frederick County Sheriff Chuck Jenkins, former Frederick Mayor Jeff Holtzinger, and State Senator William Folden for a special Flock Camera Town Hall. The questions are yours. The conversation starts here. Join us Wednesday, August 26th at 7 p.m. on Everything Frederick Live.
All right, we are back. Hey, I did a break all by myself. I remember the days being in terrestrial radio and, learning when to hit the commercials and when the song was ending and, how to talk up. They don't do this anymore, by the way, how you can, talk up an intro. And DJs used to say the intros in music, if they made a 30-second intro, that meant for us to talk for 29.5 seconds. And that's what they put them in there for. Not true. A great instrumental at the beginning of the song is there because the band thought it was cool, not because they wanted the DJ to talk. But those of us in the earlier days of radio, then right now, a lot of the program directors, well, first off, they're playing the same 25 songs over and over. I have been listening to local terrestrial radio here over the last week, and I've been listening to one station because I like that kind of music. I won't call anybody out, but every day at exactly the same time for 3 days in a row now, I've heard the exact same song, and it's not a new song either. The rotations are so insanely tight that you really are. I could give you this station's, I could give you 80% of the station's rotation. If Bon Jovi had 25 hit songs or 20 hit songs, they're playing 3 of them over the course of the day. For example, if Dire Straits had 10 hit songs, they're playing 2 of them over the course of a day, maybe. So anyways, that's one of these days. I should have done this yesterday. Yesterday was National Radio Day, by the way. And I have spent 40 years in the business. What I should have done yesterday, and maybe I will do it next week anyways. I'm going to gather up some of my friends who have been in the business for a long time, and have them on the show with me. And we can talk about the differences of, the way the announcers were so much closer to the people back in the day than they are now. I mean, kids and adults would listen to the radio in the morning and they got close to their announcer, even the night guy, even the guy that was working live at night, somebody's kid, teenagers, early 20s, college kids, they're doing their homework. They're listening to the DJ, and that DJ is talking to them because we were taught to talk to one person at a time. Try not to use the words everybody or all of you, say you and that kind of thing. Because the objective was to become friends with the listener so that the listener tunes into you every day and they become what we call a P1, a regular listener, somebody who would listen all the time to your show. No matter what time of day you're on, they were always checking out your show. So things are very, very different now in terrestrial radio. That's for sure. Not just in the way ads are done, but certainly in the programming. And we were taught, you don't lose any listeners for what you don't play. you lose listeners for what you do play. And that's always the explanation of why some stations are running, over the course of a year, only 250 songs total, and rotating them over and over and over again. Even if you love that format, even if you love that song, the song that I mentioned earlier today is the first song I ever played as a DJ in my high school radio station. And I've heard it 3 days in a row. I like the song, but that's just the way it is nowadays. Anyways, I digress. It's Friday. We're allowed to do that just a little bit. There's some things going on around town, but to get to them, you're going to have to travel. And to travel, you need gas, of course, unless you have an EV car. And gas prices, we thought they were starting to come back down, but wait, there's more. National gas prices, according to AAA, now at $4.11 for a gallon of regular. It's up 4 cents from a week ago, up 9 cents from a month ago, and up 98 cents from a year ago. The price for crude oil continues to rise again. The highest in the nation, California at $5.59 a gallon. What else is new? Washington State at $5.25. Hawaii, I never count Hawaii and Alaska, but I probably should. Hawaii is at $5.43 a gallon. Alaska at $4.82 a gallon. Nevada at $4.78 a gallon. Those are the highest in the nation. And the lowest in the nation, Indiana at $3.55 a gallon. Texas at $3.65 a gallon. Now, I don't understand why Indiana must have zero gas tax. Why they are the lowest. Texas, I understand because, they pump oil from there. $3.65 a gallon in Texas, $3.55 in Indiana. Tennessee and Mississippi tied at $3.66 a gallon, and South Carolina at $3.69 a gallon. Now, here in the state of Maryland, we are, in the state of Maryland, we're at $3.99 a gallon. Virginia is $3.91, West Virginia $3.90, Delaware $3.93, and Pennsylvania $4.15. Those are all the states that are all around us. So Maryland, a little bit higher than Virginia, West Virginia, Delaware, a little bit lower than Pennsylvania. It is up 2 cents from a week ago. It's down 2 cents from a month ago in the state of Maryland, and is up 90 cents from a year ago in the state of Maryland. Frederick, on average, is at $3.98 a gallon. Now, Washington County, for the longest time, had been the lowest in the state, but it's lower, not low. But Charles County is at $3.93. Queen Anne's County at $3.93 a gallon. And St. Mary's County, those good old boys down there in the South, they're at $3.90 a gallon. They now have the lowest gas prices in the state. Montgomery County, still the highest in the state. If you can avoid it, don't get your gas in Montgomery County. If you have to drive back and forth to D.C., get it when you get home here in Frederick County. Or, if you're driving to Washington County, wait till you get over there. Or if you're heading southbound, which, most of our listenership is right here in Frederick. Charles and St. Mary's County both have lower gas prices than they've had through this whole stretch of time. So there you have it, the update from AAA on your gas prices, both nationally and statewide. And again, remember, we're paying 65 cents a gallon, 65 cents a gallon in just taxes. And 14 goes to the feds. The rest goes to the state of Maryland. 65 cents a gallon going to your taxes in gasoline taxes. Watch for traffic issues at the intersection of I-15, Auburn and Engelberger roads in northern Frederick County, as the State Highway Administration is launching a $10.4 million project to redesign and improve safety in northern Frederick County. And that is going to start next week. So be prepared if you drive in that area, in the northern part of the county. Now, two big things going on today. And we're going to try to be at both of them if possible. I think one of our other people is going to be at one and I'm going to be at the other one. But there is a big ribbon cutting for the Maryland Deaf Community Center. It is being hosted at the community center's spot on 720 East Street in Frederick. Again, Maryland Deaf Community Center hosting their official ribbon cutting and community center's grand opening from 11 until 4 today. That is at 720 East Street in Frederick. And if you haven't seen the post, You can look on the Everything Frederick Live page, and you can see Bella's post about that as well, both in sign and with the words, so that you can know exactly what's going on and get the details. But that's coming your way today, 11 until 4. And I will be reporting from the Frederick Card Collective, having their ribbon cutting. I think Dougie's going to be over there at some point today as well. And the open house at 1 o'clock today, 16 Market Street. Brian and his crew, his family, it's pretty much his daughters and himself, put this thing together. And they're going to have all different kinds of cards. He's been on both of my shows. He's been on Good Morning Frederick, and he is ready to rock and roll. Again, the ribbon cutting is today, and kind of a soft grand opening, if you will, today at 1 o'clock at 16 North Market. The grand opening, the official grand opening, all kinds of goodies and prizes and things like that will be tomorrow at 11 a.m. And again, that is at 16 Market Street, right there between Curious Iguana and Tsunami. Again, right there on Market Street, downtown. Make sure you say hi to Brian and his crew, and I'll definitely be over there today for the ribbon cutting, and we'll get some film and we'll put it out there for you to see. So it should be a great time. Again, thanks to everybody involved in the Everything Frederick Network, Everything Frederick Live Network in Studio 401. Good Morning Frederick. We'll be back Monday morning at 9 a.m. I'll be back to do it again at 10. Actually, later this afternoon, I'll be back to talk on Frederick Sports, talking about everything from the Frederick Keys to the Little Leagues. That comes your way at 4 o'clock today on a beautiful, sunshine-filled, not even going to reach 80 degrees, light breeze kind of Friday. I like it. Remember, you are what you watch and you listen to, and thank you very much for listening to John's House. My name is John Hunt, and you've been listening all week long. Oh, yeah, I got to push this button to end the show.
Thanks for stopping by John's House. Make sure you share, like, and comment, because this conversation is better when Frederick is part of it. Tune in every weekday for more local stories, real issues, community voices, and the people helping shape Frederick. We'll see you next time.
This episode is a proud production of the Everything Frederick Live Podcast Network. Your home for Frederick's best podcasts, streaming daily on YouTube.